The Never Quit Podcast, sponsored and hosted by Quotes Jungle, with your host, Quote.
Welcome to the Never Quit Podcast. In the studio with me, I have Jasmine. I'm going to let you say your last name so I don't butcher it.
Arenas.
How are you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing great. Thank you for having me. I appreciate you taking the time to interview me and have me on your podcast.
You're very welcome. Thanks for bringing the energy and sharing what you're going to share with us today.
Of course.
Okay, we're going to get right into it. If you can go back any time in your life and change something, what would you change?
If I can go back in time, sheesh, that's a hard question. I think that I would probably go to law school. Because I think as like a reporter, you deal with all these stories of people, and sometimes people have questions that, you know, require legal representation in a way, or just for you to know the law, and you have to go and do your research as a reporter. But I feel like if you go to law school, you kind of just know it from the top of your head, so you can like help people. But that's probably something I would do.
Do you say that because you argue well, or you think you hold conversations well?
I do both. No, that's a little cocky. I think I can argue well, but, you know, I mean, I think that there's still time for that. So that's probably not something that I, you know, can't do yet. But if I could change anything, I mean, that would be one thing. I would probably just go to law school earlier. And I think that's it. I mean, I don't really live life with regrets. I do everything, and I feel that everything has a purpose in a way. So you don't really have to go back and think, oh, I wish I could do that, you know? Maybe not get a lot of credit cards. I mean, that's something. That's one thing I would do. But, like, I mean, in hindsight, you know, you live life, and the lessons that you get through life, they're for a reason.
Okay, let's talk about Yuma, Arizona, and what role that played in you becoming the journalist that you are today.
Oh, boy. Yuma was difficult. It was eye-opening. It was my first market right after college. And, you know, I was working at Fox Sports West, so I had like a little insight into what happens at the network level in the industry. I wanted to be a sports reporter, still want to do sports. But at that time, I took a job in Yuma, which was like market 160 something, 4 hours away from home. So not too bad going back like and thinking about it, because I could just drive home. But as far as the workload, it was a lot. I learned how to tell stories as a news reporter. I learned how to, you know, shoot, edit, write, and go live by myself. I shot sports as well. I anchored. I did pretty much everything. I also did weather. I was a weather girl for a bit. So it kind of shaped me into a well-rounded journalist. Like, I felt like I could go into any role and just learn it and maybe not master it, but still do a good job. So I will always like have Yuma in my heart for that.
Let's talk about how difficult it was compared to nowadays when it comes to marketing yourself, because you were in such a small market. Girls and males and everybody, they have a lot of things like the internet, social media platforms. You had to do a lot of the grinding work, as we would call it, to become the person you are and what you're continuing to be today.
Yeah, I think it's definitely very hard when you go to a small market, because not everybody knows about you. And it's really hard to get people to even care about the news you're telling, you know, because you're essentially telling news for a small population. And only half of that population even cares about the news you're even telling. So it's difficult. But I think that people that support you will always, you know, highlight you, right? So if you have friends in high places, right, or friends that see your talent and know that you know, bring a lot to the table, and they shout you out or just repost you, simple things like that on social media, you know, it makes you well known. People know about you. People hear about what you do. They're interested. They go to your page, and then they're like, oh, I like this person. I'll follow them. And I think that that's how it starts, right? Somebody reposting you, somebody putting you on, somebody that's already like up there. And I think that also you have to be humble when it comes to that. You can't just think like, oh, I got it, and I'm this person, and I'm here. Like, you have to give an opportunity to yourself and to other people to put you on. So I think that helps a lot.
So moving along, let's talk about your experience that you did in Colorado Springs now.
Yeah, Colorado Springs. I was there for about 2 years. I was also working hard out there. I did news. I did Spanish news. I was an anchor for the morning news, so morning cut-ins. I did like every day, probably an hour of that. And then I would go and pitch stories and I'd go and shoot, edit, write my stuff, and then go live around 4 p.m. So it was a fast turnaround. But I think that all it taught me being in Colorado Springs was grit, just knowing that it's, a place where I need to learn, I need to grow and sharpen my skills. And pretty much just being in Colorado Springs, it gave me a platform, and it, more people got to see me because KRDO is a really good station. And so that's how I got discovered, you could say, at CBS Colorado, because, they pay attention to a lot of news that happens in Colorado Springs. A lot of the reporters that they're bringing in now, started in Colorado Springs, or their second market was in Colorado Springs because they know the market, and they want to reach to Colorado in general, not just Denver.
You've done a lot of legwork. Let's talk about some of your best experiences as an intern and maybe one of your worst experiences if you're willing to share it.
Wait, do you know people or something? What happened?
Research.
The worst is not out there, but I could tell it now. I mean, it's fine. The best experience I've had as an intern, oh boy, there was a lot. I loved being an intern. Sounds so weird. It's probably like the highlight of my career in a way, because I was around so many people that had jobs that I, only dreamed of. And I was around like sideline reporters, learned from them. I was around these athletes. I was around the Clippers a lot, LA Kings, the Lakers, all these teams. And so just learning and watching and being in that environment was great, like overall. But if I had to say my worst experience, give me a minute. I'm trying to put it into words. So I'm very much the type that gets distracted easily, as you can tell probably from the way I answer questions. But I think that I was just so ambitious and wanted to learn from everyone. And I think that I would spend a lot of time with the anchors or the reporters at Spectrum News, which was Time Warner Cable Sports at that time. And sometimes would be late to like a position, like a teleprompter position, because my job was to be like on the teleprompter for like Dodgers and, some of the shows that they have. And I remember one time, like, they're like, hey, like, you got to be like, in studio doing the prompter, but I really didn't think that the guys needed the prompter, because every time I would like roll on the prompter, because at that time you had to like step on a little pedal, and then like the prompter would go up and down. And so at that time I didn't think, hey, they need the prompter. I just thought like, these guys just go. It's just for like, for them to know where they're at in the show. So I was really like, my job's not that important, but I guess it was, because I got in trouble for it. They were like, what are you doing? Why are you never, at the teleprompter on time? And I'm just like, okay, I guess. I'm sorry. And that was like the worst thing ever. I felt my career was over. I was crying. I was like, well, like, I'm not a perfect intern. Like, it was it was crazy. And I remember them telling me, this doesn't mean you're not ever going to be on air, or that you're not ever going to be a sports reporter or something. It just means that like you need to learn to be there on time when things happen like that. And I'm just like, okay. And I think I'm still learning just the on time thing. So
let's talk about one of your most positive experiences.
I think learning from Christina Pink. She's a sideline reporter. She did a lot of work for the Clippers, does a lot of work for the NFL. She would always allow me to shadow her. And so I remember she would tell me like, hey, we're going to go into like this press conference. Doc Rivers at the time was the head coach for the Clippers. And she was like, you are going to just watch what I do, take notes, whatever the coach is saying, like take notes of what he's saying and what you would say in a pre-show tease or something, pre-show live report. And write it down, take notes, and then we'll go over it. And so like her just taking the time to do that during her shift, because now I know what it's like to be a reporter and to be on air and the pressure that comes with that. And, looking back, it means so much to me that she took the time to do that. And it wasn't just one time. It was like probably like 3 or 4 times, in a season. And I was working there for probably 3 years, 3 years of my college career. So as a sophomore, junior, and senior. So just looking back, I was like, wow, like she really, meant well. And so I think that was the best experience, just learning from someone like her.
Awesome. How hard is it to separate personal emotion when you're covering a story? And my second part question to that is, have you ever cried on camera?
Have I cried on camera?
When covering a story?
I don't think I've ever been caught crying, but covering a story, a lot of the news stories that I tell make me cry because so you're taught to like not put your emotion into it and to just like, poker face this and just tell the story. But it's hard to do that because when you're done telling the story, that's still their reality. Like, it doesn't change. Like, you have the power to tell their story, and that's the only power you really have for other people to know about it. And maybe other people do something about it, right? Or you hold like these politicians accountable or people that are higher ups accountable for issues that, let's just say like just that normal people have every day. And so I think that it's hard for me to take the emotion away from it because like yesterday I was covering a story of like a migrant camp and it's in the city. It looks like, and I don't know if anyone's ever been to Tijuana, but like when you go to Tijuana and like you stand in the line to like cross the border to the U.S., there's like a lot of poverty around in the area, people just selling stuff, trying to get through. And that's exactly what this street, and I can't say the name of the street or anything, but like this migrant camp in the area here in Denver looks like. Like it looks so terrible. There's so many tents. There's kids without sweaters running around, no food. I mean, if they do have food, it's like people bringing them food, like nonprofits stopping by, no blankets. It's getting cold. It's just so sad to think that while I'm in my apartment warm, there is a kid out there or a baby out there that's freezing. And like, I can't really do anything about it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I think that it's hard to take away emotion when you're doing those type of stories. Like, at some point you're human. But I think that just going back to the fact that like, okay, you're a journalist, tell the story and, hopefully someone will help because you told this story. And I think that gets me back to like my reality. So
that's definitely difficult. So let's talk about some of the more challenging and difficult things that you have while being a journalist. Like I'll give you IE example, last minute notice when you're doing fill-ins for people, knowing they're always watching you, doing your best because your peers, everybody's watching you and you can't drop the ball. And I'm pretty sure fill-ins are like last minute, correct? Do you still do those? Where it's like you go cover for somebody? I'm not sure if I'm using the proper term for it.
Oh, I see. We try not to do that. At least at my station, it's usually like pretty like scheduled in advance who's going to fill in for someone. It hasn't happened to me yet when they're like, hey, we need you on set. You got to go. At least at this station, it hasn't happened to me yet. I think it happened a lot to me in Yuma because they were like short staff and it's a small market and they'll be like, hey, we don't have someone to cover weather, go. And I'm just like, I don't know anything about weather. I didn't go to meteorology school. Like, what are you talking about? But at this market here in Denver, it hasn't happened to me yet. But I think that, just always being prepared, staying up with current events, what's going on, I think that helps you a lot. And I guess in a sense it has happened to me when they throw me a story that I've never covered before. And they're like, hey, we need this done by 5 p.m. today. And you're just like, what? Like, I've never even heard of this story. You know, I've never heard of this, of what's going on. I don't know how to cover politics. Sometimes, like, I'm like, what does the law say? That's what I'm saying. I should have gone to law school and, you know, been prepared. But I think that the way you do it is you just got to go. You just got to read. You just got to be fast. And one thing about me, and I'm not afraid to say, is I'm not afraid to make mistakes and to let people know I'm human. Because at the end of the day, no one's perfect. And one thing I was taught, like, since I was young was, if you're not God, like, no one really has that much power over you.
True. I did a little bit of research. I know you want to be on SportsCenter one day. Who is the biggest person you look up to thus far on SportsCenter, if anybody on there?
I'm a big, like, Latina girl. Like, I love my culture, and I love people who represent my culture. And at some point, Antonetta Collins was on there, and I really admired her. But I think that there was no one really that I was, like, I don't want to say that. That's not true. Impressed with? No. That's not true. I think that the reason why I want to be on, like, a platform like that was because I never saw anyone that looks like me or look like me on those platforms. And I wanted to be the change and be different. And I think that right now I'm not doing that. So I can't really answer to that question because, you know, your life changes when you have to cover a certain beat or category, right? I still watch sports. I mean, I know the Broncos won yesterday. I mean, I know they're doing good, right? I know things like that, but I'm not, like, in tune with that right now. I think that I'm focusing more on news. So I would just say, like, people like Antonetta Collins, really, you know, admired people like that. Sage Steele, great energy, just so classy. So, what they say in Spanish, fina, like, she's, like, just great on camera, and she's a great person to also, like, talk to. I mean, I met her in person once, and she was just so sweet and, you know, gave me some words of advice. And I think that women like that really create a platform for young women to look up to them and to not be like them, but, you know, have jobs like that one day.
She seems to drive you, correct? You would say she drives you as a woman?
I think so. I think there's a couple. I think that now, okay, so growing up, okay, let's start. Growing up, Erin Andrews was the one that we would look up to, right? A lot of, like, young sports reporters, and a lot of my friends that were young sports reporters were like, oh, like, Erin Andrews is, like, great. She's on Fox. She does NFL. She was, like, the it girl for sideline sports reporters. And then there was, like, Jessica Mendoza, and she's, like, a pioneer in sports, too, and women in sports. And she played as well. She played softball, so she was great. And I think that they say things like, okay, once you meet your heroes, sometimes they're not necessarily your heroes anymore. I'm not saying that these people that I grew up admiring aren't my heroes anymore, but I don't necessarily look to them for inspiration as much as I used to anymore. And I'm talking about Erin Andrews. Jessica Mendoza, yes. But I'm talking about people like Erin Andrews, Carissa Thompson. You know, there's a lot of new things coming out about how these women did their jobs. And I feel like there wouldn't be enough mercy for someone like me of color who, you know, messes up like that in a public and network form. I think that I would be dragged. And so, you know, that changes. And now I think I admire more so my friends that are in the industry, like the Samantha Riveras. Like, she's killing it. She's, like, always, you know, on top of her stuff. She's passionate. And she doesn't let anyone mess with her. And, you know, she's focused. And I think that women like, and I've seen her struggle and I've seen her come up. And I think that things like that is what I admire more now.
What started your journey to become a journalist?
I mean, do you want to go back to, like, sitting in the front porch with my dad in LA?
We got time because we're going to go to LA as well.
No, I mean, I feel like that's how it started. Really, like, that was, like, the seed planted. And I don't know if my dad remembers this, but I remember it so vividly that we were, like, sitting on the porch and he's like, hey, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I was like, well, I want to be the one that, like, gets interviewed. And he was like, nah, I think you're going to be, like, a news reporter. I was like, what? He's like, yeah, you're going to be on the news. And I was just like, I'd rather be the one that, like, you know, gets interviewed. But I ended up being a news reporter, and I don't know how that happened. And I was, like, 7 years old on the porch. And now, like, the way it happened was, like, in high school, I would do, like, the little announcements, you know, how they would, like, oh, this is happening today. Scorpion News was my thing. I went to Hesperia High School, and I would do the morning announcements, and then I would do stories like that, find stories. And then I think that's how it started. And then in college, I did sports. And I mean, it's been a grind, so.
Tell the people why Oprah is one of the people you want to interview.
Because I think that she does such a good job. Okay, so with like Oprah, I feel like I can relate to a lot. And I know a lot of people say, like, oh, I'm the next Oprah and things like that. I don't think I'm the next Oprah. I think that her and I speaking about how we get too personal with our stories, like how we get too attached to the characters, would be an interesting conversation with her to have. Because I would ask her, like, how are you, you know, at this migrant camp, and you have to tell yourself not to, like, you know, have a heart in a way, so you can just ask these questions and get the answers to these questions and get these people on camera. Like, you're literally going to a migrant camp, asking these people for an interview, and you're not giving them any food, you're not giving them any money, you're not giving them anything in return, you're just asking them for their story. Like, you know, these people are gonna suffer while you go home and, like, you know, have a meal. So I think that interviewing Oprah would be great, because I would just ask her, like, you know, you were a reporter once, you had an opportunity to tell these stories, and they always told you that you got too attached. What does that mean? What does that look like? You know, and I think that everyone lets her tell her story, but they never really go into, like, what it meant. And a journalist versus journalist type of conversation would be great. But I mean, I'm not on that level yet, so I don't know.
Maybe you will be one day. You never know. Explain to the people what the term means, never quit, when it comes to your parents. Never
quit. I think that my parents instilled that in me at a young age, and I think it comes from both of them, because my parents they were immigrants when they came to the U.S. They came at, like, age 6 or 7 years old. This is a story they tell me. If it's not true, it's not my fault. No, I'm kidding. They came when they were 6 or 7 years old to the U.S., and they had to learn English, and they had to learn the American culture. And then, you know, they got their papers, and they, you know, my mom went to college and finished. My dad never went to college, but it didn't mean that he didn't find a way to make it. Like, he is an entrepreneur. He has his own business. He learned his way through life by himself, really. You know, he grew up with a single mother, raised by a single mother. His dad died at an early age. And I think that just, like, the stories of how my parents came up, you know, embody the never quit, you know, don't quit. Like, you want something, go after it. You don't, it's just something that's been instilled in me since I was a young girl. And so my mom, till this day, like, she is a substitute teacher. So she's not, like, on regular payroll, right? But she only gets paid if she goes to work. And so even if she's sick, and I hate this about her, but even if she's sick, she'll be like, if I don't go to work, I'm not going to make any money. I got to go. And it doesn't matter how she's feeling. She just, like, puts that aside and she shows up. And I think that that's something admirable. Same thing with my dad, right? Because he's his own owner. He's, like, his own boss. And so if he doesn't work, he doesn't eat. He doesn't get bread, you know? And it's like, I'm so blessed to be able to, like, take a day off if I need to and still get paid. But my parents, you know, they don't. And I think that that is something that they've, like, taught us, you know, like, you know, don't quit. Like, you have it so easy. Like, if you need a mental health day, you can have one. You still get paid. Like, you know, why are you going to quit? So I think that it's all that in one.
And doing my research, you grew up in Compton, California, correct?
Yeah.
Talk about what it was like growing up in some of those areas and those surrounding areas, meaning hoods, and why you didn't adapt to some of that behavior.
Well, okay, so for half of my life, my grandma raised me. So I was in South Central LA, but my parents did buy a house in Compton, and then I eventually went to high school in Compton. My siblings were more in the Compton Unified School District, so they saw a lot more than I did. Essentially, I did grow up in the hood, though, and I saw a lot of my friends like get pregnant early on, or not have the support from their parents that I had, and just make I don't want to say bad decisions because I feel like everyone has their own life, but essentially what would other people call bad decisions, go down the wrong path. And so for me, it really takes a village, to get someone on the right path. And I think I had that behind me. I had my grandparents who would always advise me and who would always, pull my ear if I was doing something bad, or if they thought I was doing something bad, or if I got like a C in a class, like it wasn't something that they permitted. And then my parents were also on me. And so I think I was just like that good girl that was scared to like mess up. And that kept me on the right track. Like I never did any drugs or anything like that in like, middle school or high school. And it's not like a diss to anyone who did. Like my siblings grew up differently, but like they weren't as scared as I was. And I think that just me being fearful of like what my parents would think of me or what my life would turn out to be if I did mess up or do anything, like it kind of kept me on the right track.
Awesome. Can you describe to the people why success takes being selfish? Let me explain that more. I heard you talking briefly earlier, and a little bit in my research, I see that you've done your own edits. You do your filming, you do all that. Some people don't understand that you have to be selfish in order to be successful to do that kind of stuff, because even hiring somebody, you lose time. Can you briefly talk about that?
Being selfish with your work?
Yes.
Okay, so when I first got hired in Yuma, I got hired as a multimedia journalist. And I really didn't understand how that would work in the industry because, yes, in college I edited, wrote, and, shot all my stuff. But in like my first market, I didn't think like, oh, I would have to do all that by myself as well. And then that they would put that on TV. So, like I was like afraid to mess up, and I was afraid to just do everything by myself. But you grow that grit because there's no one else to help you. You have to do it by yourself. And I think that in that sense, yes, it would be nice to have people help, and it would be nice to have other, photographers or editors who are more talented than you, because you have to accept that sometimes, do the work for me. But in news, there's not enough time. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. You have to turn something in, and if you're by yourself, you just got to get it. Like, you have a deadline, And if you wait on people sometimes, like, sometimes people could be lazy too, and they don't want to help you. They don't want to do the work that you would pour into a story. And so if you would rather have like a great result, you got to just do it yourself. You know how sometimes people are like, if they don't see your vision, they're not going to like be able to execute what you want. So I think that being selfish in the sense of like, I got to do this myself because I care about this and I want to tell it this way is okay. But I don't mind help. I just don't have time for it in a day. I love it. Like yesterday I worked with a photographer for the migrant camp story, and he was great. And he really helped capture, what I saw as well, and help me tell the story. So I think that when you have people who are passionate, just like you, then it works out.
How do you feel about AI, and have you took advantage of it?
Oh my God, it's so scary. Have I taken advantage of it? I wouldn't say I've taken advantage of it. Have I tried it? Yes. And it's really scary. I think that it helps when it comes to research, though, because I would say things like Casa Bonita. I did a story in Casa Bonita. And I had done a story on like AI and how it's affecting colleges and things like that, and how people are afraid of like, fraud and, copying a whole paper from, AI. But I think that if you use it in a way to like learn something really quickly, it can help you. because I had to cover Casa Bonita. And obviously, I'm an LA girl. I wasn't born here. I don't know how big the Casa Bonita, thing is out here. I was just kind of like, okay, like somebody help me understand. And I looked and I was like, maybe I should use AI, because I had just done a story on it. And I was like, maybe I should just use it. Let's see what happens. And I didn't use it for my story. I just used it for research. So I was like, what does Casa Bonita mean to Colorado? And it gave me like a whole history on it. It was like, it's big, South Park, all these things, da-da-da. And I was like, okay, cool. It helped me understand a little bit more. So I think that when you use it in that sense to understand a little bit more, to, just learn something quickly, I think that it could help. When it comes to writing stuff, I think that it's scary, for journalists nowadays as well, because it's like, well, no. Okay, let me rephrase that. AI cannot tell a story the way a journalist can tell a story. AI is not on the field. AI could write scripts, but they can't, their eyes are not out there. They're not there. So I think in that sense, they can't replace a journalist. An anchor, maybe. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. No, I'm kidding. A producer, maybe. I'm just kidding. Don't hate me. I'm kidding.
Maybe. Partial serious question. I'll let you drink your water on this one. If you're willing to share, how do you battle self-doubt?
It's hard. How do I battle it, or how do I deal with it, maybe?
Either way.
How do I battle it and how do I deal with it? How do I combat it? I'm trying to ask myself the question too, because it's hard. A lot of times you just got to remember where you came from. I think that your upbringing really helps a lot, because there's always going to be people who doubt you, people who don't know you and judge you every day based off your appearance, based off the way you speak, based off the way you walk, based off the way you tell stories. Like, there's so much doubt that can be instilled in you when that happens. And I think that, and when you're a journalist and you're out there, and I think just remembering where you come from and holding on to God and his grace and praying for his grace over your life so that people see that grace in you, it helps a lot. And it does work. I think that prayer works a lot. My mother prays for me a lot. So does my father. And I think that when I call them and I have like these doubts as well, like, oh, I don't want to do this anymore. It's so hard and this and that and da-da-da. They're just like, you got to pray. If God doesn't want you to do it, he'll find a way to stop whatever's going on in your life and maybe take that away from you. Because, God gives and he takes away. And if you're not meant to be somewhere, then it's not going to happen. So I think that helps. I battle it in the sense of like just prayer, a lot of prayer.
Do you read at all?
Do I read? Yes.
What are three of some people don't read nowadays. Some people don't read books. Maybe I should have been more clear. Read books, novels.
Books. I haven't been reading a lot right now.
See, at least you're honest. That's why I ask people.
I read a lot of news.
Okay, what's one of your favorite books?
My favorite books, Esperanza Rising. Have you read it?
No, I haven't. I'm just laughing.
My mom gave me that book such a long time ago, and I always remember it. It's basically about a young Mexican girl growing up in a Mexican household and just overcoming a lot of obstacles, as her parents were immigrants as well. So I think that I can kind of relate to it, but I think my mom gave it to me more so to understand that other people have it harder. I was blessed. I was also obsessed with Twilight for a while. I was always reading those books. Okay. But as far as just like books for fun, I've had a couple books that I've read in the last few months, but they're not about anything fun. They're about self-growth and getting over grief.
You seem very in tune with your culture. Can you share with the people, even me, 3 groups that we need to be aware of and 3 songs that hit you personally?
I don't know. I mean, I listen to a lot of music. 3 groups, I don't know. I would say...
Give me one artist, your favorite song in Spanish that the masses might not be familiar with?
I can't. I can't do that. I mean, I'll tell you this. I'll tell you what I've been listening to. There's this artist named Xavier. He sings La Víctima. The song is just very fun. I think that his voice is different, and he talks about like a lover who acts like the victim and is crying over like a breakup, and he's like, "You did this to yourself." But I feel like his voice is different, and so it kind of makes the song. Do you want to hear it? It's like, no, I don't. Like his voice is just distinct.
And that's when I'll drop the song right here.
And then I think Grupo Frontera, they're a really good group. A lot of people really enjoy them. They have a few songs. One of their most popular songs is Un Por Ciento with Bad Bunny. And I think that was iconic because Bad Bunny is a reggaeton artist, and Grupo Frontera is like a regional Mexican artist. And you don't see a lot of these artists come together ever, really. Like there's always beef between them. And so the fact that there was like Bad Bunny and like a Mexican regional artist come together, or group come together and make a hit, I think that that's wonderful. And so it was really popular as well. And then my third artist, I mean, you gotta go with Peso Pluma.
Okay.
Everybody loves Peso Pluma. Have you heard him?
No. I'll do research though. That's why I asked you, because I want to be familiar, because I'm very in tune with music.
I love Peso Pluma. I think he has this song name. He has a lot of songs, but what's this one song? Gosh, I don't remember a lot of stuff. But I know it if I listen to it.
It's fine.
No, now I gotta remember it. What does he say? Oh, his popular one is like "Compa, que le parece Zamora," something like that. So just look that up.
Okay, give me
what it's called.
Your 3 favorite R&B songs or
My
groups
3 favorite ever, or like right now?
ever.
Oh man, I love R&B. I love me some Neo, and I always like at least once a year I always play one of his like a bunch of his songs actually, but I think the song that I really like from him is Do You. I like that song. It's just so smooth. And then another artist, Jodeci. Love Jodeci.
Top 3 of all time.
Cry
groups.
for You. That, I mean, is the one that came to mind, so I'm just going to say that. I mean, there's so many good R&B songs, and I feel like I'm not even... Charlene, Anthony Hamilton, like, I don't know. I can't tell you top 3. I'm just a big R&B girl.
Who's one of your favorite right now, currently?
Usher.
Super Bowl, huh?
You don't have to call. It's okay, girl. I play that song every day. But yeah, I pretty much live in like the past when it comes to music. And I know new songs too as well, but there's nothing like old R&B. Like you really got to sit back and listen to those songs and you're just like, why isn't there anything like this out here right now? 'Cause there's just not.
What is your favorite R&B song of all time? If you had to pick one and you were stuck in a room and it was on repeat.
That's a good question. Sheesh.
Over and over and over.
Dang. Nah, I can't do that. I forgot. Why am I like blanking out?
Because you're always asking the questions.
If you ever leave, right? If you ever take your love away from me.
Blackstreet.
Blackstreet.
Mm-hmm. What is the biggest influence that you want to set on a young girl that looks like you if you were to leave this earth tomorrow? I'm not trying to put that juju or that energy on you, but what's the example that you want to set when somebody sees you?
Yeah, I think that I want to set the example that I'm strong, independent, and I am a go-getter. And I think that that's not to talk myself up, but I think that I've been in this career for about 5 years. And it's not easy. It's hard. You know, there's times where I do break down because, you know, I don't feel understood, heard, or appreciated. But I think that I want a young girl watching me, if, you know, they ever admire me, to go after it, that it doesn't matter what anyone says. You know, brush your hair, brush your teeth, fix your look, and go after it. Like, that's it. Like, you're a killer and you got this. And I think that that's how I try to live my life as well, because it's not easy. I mean, a lot of times if you mess up on TV or you have like a bad day and you mess up on a story, like, you get hard on yourself, right? Because you're not allowed to make mistakes. But at the end of the day, you're human and you can correct those mistakes. You're not dead, you know? So, yeah, I just want them to believe in themselves no matter what and not let anybody talk down on them. I think that's a big thing. I think it's so easy for people to listen to other people's opinions and let that, you know, take over who you are as a person. Mm-hmm. And it's hard to say, no, I'm not going to let that person define me. So I think that I want that young girl to be like, no, I'm not going to let that person define me who thinks negatively of me. And even with positive comments too, like, you got to have an outlook on your own persona and like believe that and live that. You know what I mean? Like, whatever you believe of yourself, that's what you got to live. And so that's what you got to put out there. So that's my advice.
Do you know who was one of the owners of Body Armor, the sports drink?
No, you wouldn't tell me.
I'm going to have you read the side of this bottle. Read the side of that bottle for me.
Of course I know.
Let's talk about how important Kobe was to you.
I mean, it's kind of surprising that you like brought it up, because I still get kind of emotional when I think about it, because I don't think that was fair. You know, life's not fair, but that was just like out of nowhere, you know? And there's a lot of conspiracy theories. I won't get into that, but the way that death happened was just terrible. Like, he died with his daughter. And like, the way I think about it a lot is like, okay, well, like, his daughter really admired him and, you know, would be heartbroken and you know, would hate life if her dad wasn't around. And so it probably had to happen that way. You know, God lets things happen the way they do for a reason. But I think that was really hard. I remember what I was doing. I was like getting ready for work, and you know, a friend at the time texted me. He's like, "Oh, did you see Kobe died?" And I was like, "What? No, Kobe didn't die. That's weird." I started calling everybody. It was like a family member died, you know, because like he has such a big presence in LA, and like, you know, a loyal Laker, and, you know, brought championships to the city. And, you know, anywhere you go, you ask about Kobe, like, everybody knows about Kobe. And it's so crazy because, like, you know, people make mistakes. Kobe had, like, haters as well. But at the end of the day, it was all love, you know? Like, he was like an idol to many in the city. And so I think that this quote is one that I live by, because it's just what everybody should do. And I think that in many occasions, the way he played his game, his hard work ethic, the way that he never let anyone talk down on him, he never let anybody tell him what he was. And I think that that's something that the way that I live, like, he never let anybody say, oh, you're this and that. And like, he never believed that. He never embodied that. He was Kobe. He was who he thought he was, and that's how he lived his life. Mm-hmm. And I think that because he did that, a lot of people would, you know, see that and follow through with that. And he was like one of the hardest workers on the field, or on the field.
On the court.
On the court. On the
still
field.
A field of life.
You see what I do there? I'm like, Kobe too. No. And I think I'm always like relating things when I mess up. I'm like, you know, Kobe was through air balls at a point. Like, you know, like, I don't know. So everything negative pressure challenges is all opportunity for me to rise. Something negative in your life that happens is all an opportunity for you to come up and show up and be different and just, show what you're made of. Mm-hmm. And so, like, you can't let these situations define you. And I think that if he was here today, he's not here today, but I feel like he would tell his own family, like, don't let my death mark you and, have you be depressed forever or anything. Like, live up to it and do more and, and have my legacy, let my legacy live. And I think that that's what they've been doing. And I think that because he had that mentality, I think that that also relates to their family, family members just believing in how he lived his life. And I think that's why I admire him so much. I think that he had a lot of hate throughout his career as well, like any other player. But I think that he never let that define him. He never let that put him down. He was always such a leader to other people as well and other young athletes. And a lot of my uncles grew up watching him too. And, till this day, he's just one of the greats. And it's talent, but it's also grit. It's also tenacity. It's also a lot of work, studying. Like, he's not the person that was just flashy because he was good at playing basketball. Like, he made sure he was good at playing basketball. You know what I mean? And it's the same thing as being a journalist. You can't. Some people just have the talent. That's cool. But, like, I'm not those people. Like, I feel like I have to work hard. I feel like I have to show up. I have to prove myself. And not to prove it to other people, but to prove it to myself that I can do it. And that mentality is really Kobe's mentality, is why I'm such a big Kobe fan. And I'm not a fan of a lot of people. I mean, I admire a lot of people's work, but I'm not like one person that's like, oh, I'm such a fan. Like, no. And I felt like you were gonna ask me about Kobe. I was just wearing a Kobe shirt this morning.
You should have had it on, but
you
but hey, we can't see him on camera, but she has Jordans on. I always get people with this that don't be supporting Kobe. I got all the Kobes. Okay, social media. What platform do you spend the most time on?
Instagram.
Okay.
And I feel like it's been such a big topic in my life lately because a lot of like close friends that I have are like, hey, you need to grow your social media account. You got to post more. You got to do more. You got to show where you're at. You got to show what you're doing. Like, and I feel like for a long time, I kind of was just like angry with myself. And I was like, no, I don't want to post what I'm doing because I'm not doing what I want. And I don't want people to, categorize me as that. It's kind of like the thing of like, it's kind of like just like actresses, right? If you are a Spanish actress and you do novelas and stuff, you're not going to be able to do movies in English and stuff like that because people see you as one thing. And so I was like, well, people are only going to see me as a news reporter because all I do is news. Mm-hmm. I don't want that. I want to be like a sports reporter. They're like, well, whatever, post, then, start talking about sports and post about it. Like, so I think social media has been a big thing for me, a big topic for me lately, but I haven't really been on it much. I'm still trying to get around, trying to figure out what presence I want to have on social media. It's so easy to take a selfie and post it. Because it's just like, oh, look at my outfit, or, oh, look at me, I'm out here. Like, but when it comes to, like, setting up like a presence on social media, like people go to you or go to your page for that, I'm still trying to figure that out. But I do spend a lot of time on Instagram, and I think it's fun. Really, that's why I spend a lot of time on it. I love TikTok, but also it's all about like figuring out what type of content I want to put out there.
Share with the people something that you've never shared publicly that you're willing to share that they might not think of you.
I get really nervous when I'm on TV.
That's good to know because you look flawless at times. So that's good,
thanks.
Something good to share. People need to know that. No, most of the time, but you get what I'm saying. I know it's a very, very hard thing to do.
I get really, really nervous. And sometimes it's so funny because I'm just like, I'm even nervous right now. Like, I don't know why. I just get like these nerves creep up on me when I'm like on camera, when I know a camera is around. But it's so funny because I have this big personality and I'm always like so happy and fun and loud even at times. And my friends are like, shut up. And every time a camera comes on, like I get so nervous. So that's probably one thing people probably don't know about me. If you pay close attention, I'm sure you can figure it out.
So many unanswered questions. The family wants to know what made the deputy pull into this motel, and then how did it get to the point where now 35-year-old Mario Ortega is lifeless? They have these questions and more. So many special memories have been made inside this location. Some people have even met their lifetime partners. Yeah, Denver has spent more than $492,000 on one-way bus tickets to destinations across the country. With summer around the corner, it's only right to make sure that your pool is safe before you jump in. And you want to do that safely, which is why the city of Denver sent out a warning to all public pools. Students can study nursing at the Community College of Aurora for completely free, and it's thanks to a new program, Career Advance Colorado. Out of the 745 deaths you mentioned, 76 of them were teens, and yes, like him's parents are tired of it, so they're doing something about it, and in a way, honoring Mackenzie's memory. Bond for $2 million.
Wow, you made a real of me.
Appear in court on August
I should just send this to LA.
Jasmine Arenas, I'm covering Colorado first. During this press conference, both SROs and Denver Police Chief Ron Thomas discussed the implementation of SROs back in schools. Their message to parents today is that school resource officers are there for positive engagement. Good evening. We're here on South County Line Road. We're right behind me. C470's underpass bridge was found flooded earlier today. People in the area tell me it rained for about 15 to 30 minutes before clearing out a half hour later, and it's something like they've never seen before. But the real damage was found in Highlands Ranch neighborhoods. Residents I spoke with tell me they're not surprised that incidents and altercations similar to this with neighbors happen often. So one resident even made an Instagram page to showcase living conditions at this shelter. In essence, they don't feel safe. Like I said, I felt like that energy here was a lot more stronger than it was in Miami. You can see it if you watch the game. Just fans at Ball Arena were ecstatic. They can't wait for Game 5, and they're hoping that that will be the day that the Nuggets actually win some gold.
Nervous? I don't think so. You only caught that one. Nobody would have knew that if you didn't know it, so don't be so hard on yourself.
I saw a lot of instances where I was like, I was nervous.
Yeah.
I was nervous.
Keep up the good work. I wanted to make that for you and show you, because you
Thank
probably don't ever get to watch yourself unless you're editing. You know what I'm saying? So I wanted to show you that. And I had a feeling you were going to point that out, but that's not why I put that together. I wanted you to see that other people are watching you, and you never know who's watching you.
Thank you.
Okay.
I appreciate that.
Oh,
so
no
much.
problem.
I appreciate you taking the time to do this.
And that's why I did that, because people know that takes time, and it separates me too.
That's a lot of work.
Exactly. So I want you to look into that camera and tell everybody how they can reach you and what's the easiest way to get a hold of you, maybe personally, on a story, etc.
You guys can reach me on Instagram at JAA News, and then you can also reach out to me on X at Jasmine Arenas TV, and then I'll share my email with you all. You can also find me on cbscolorado.com under bios, and you can send me a direct email there as well. Thanks for watching.
Thank you for your time. I've enjoyed my time in the studio with Jasmine. This has been another episode of the Never Quit podcast, hosted by Quotes Jungle. Peace.
The Never Quit Podcast, sponsored and hosted by Quotes Jungle, with your host, Quote.